So, you want to stay warm? Well, you better stay inside. That's everything. Thank you. See you out there. No, really. Being out in nature always includes a risk of getting cold. At its best, it's unpleasant. At its worst, it's dangerous.
And what you have to keep in mind is that nature wants to level everything out. And in this video, we're going to talk a little bit more about some practical examples on how you can avoid your temperature of the body to get too low in winter conditions.
There are two major risks that you want to avoid when being out in the cold. The first one we refer to as frostbites, and the second one is a more general cooling down of the body. We call that hypothermia. But we're going to return to those two topics in a little while. First, we're going to look into what is it that actually cause these symptoms.
Yeah, and I think we're going to start with convection, which is basically a type of air exchange, you could say, and that can be a good thing in terms of ventilation. We need to ventilate in order not to get too hot and sweaty closest to your body. So convection doesn't always have to be a bad thing.
But what is convection then in its most general form?
Well, basically, ventilating under your arm and on your shell jacket,
yeah,
where you have a heat pressure on one side of the clothing, and you open up and you have a lot of air slipping out.
The other way around then, that's why you want to have like an airtight garment.
Yeah,
or
true.
a airtight construction.
Exactly.
To protect from the wind.
Exactly.
That creates convection.
Exactly. So one example, yesterday when we went dog sledding, we had a lot of wind coming, and I was standing on the sled, and I had opened the shell jacket here in the lining, and at once, I got so cooled down by the wrists because I had it a little bit too open. But as soon as you close it up, you feel the air tightness,
yeah,
and that makes the whole difference.
So then your body is able to heat up the air closest to your skin, and you instant feel the comfort is coming to you.
Exactly.
All right, so convection is the heat loss through air communication.
That's right.
And you have another example of how to lose heat?
Yes, unfortunately I do. I think now when we've been talking about air communication, the next step is actually the heat loss through materia, like one material touching another.
Trying to level out like the differences again?
Exactly, it's always going to be about leveling out. And in the case of losing body heat, I think a good example is, when you are removing your glove, touching metals. And that could be a shovel or the kitchen, the stove.
So that's, for instance, like the gas canister and the fuel bottle?
Yes.
That's really something you need to master with your gloves on then?
Exactly. So that's why you should really practice using your gloves before you head out on a winter expedition or adventure, because the heat loss is instant. So
conduction, but that would also mean then if I put my entire body into cold water.
Exactly, and that will be a heat loss all over at once, and that's going to be very quick. Incredible.
And this is really an extreme case of conduction.
Yeah, it's really incredible how fast the cold gets you. So another example of heat transport or heat transformation is radiation.
I'm
Do you have
thinking
any
of a radiator?
Exactly. That's a good artificial example. Another natural.
I know.
Yeah. Sun. Exactly.
I got it.
A fire is also a good example of radiation.
So does that mean like my body is also radiating heat?
Exactly, all the unprotected areas. Again, you know, nature wants to level things out. And at the moment, what part of your body is a big radiator?
Well, I have quite some beard, but except that, I guess, like my skin in my face.
Exactly. So at the moment, that part is the most radiating part, and that's where you have most heat loss. But then again, maybe that is not the most sensitive part of the body. But it will be much severe if you expose your hands or the core. So that's why we are sitting right now with big jackets on. A way to actually feel if it's a really good shield from radiation is to feel if you have if the outer temperature is basically the same as the surrounding air, then you know you have a really good insulation because you keep all the heat inside. If you have a thin jacket on, or if you only had your shelf jacket on, it will shield from the wind but not from the radiation. So you would have a much higher temperature on the outside of the fabric, and you will be again a radiator.
All right. Convection, conduction, radiation, but what is the fourth?
Yeah, we have a fourth, and that would be evaporation. And I think maybe you have a fresh example from last night?
Yeah, I'm thinking of sweat.
Yeah. We went into the sauna and then came out here to have a deep dive into the ice pool.
Yeah.
But in that exact moment when we left the sauna, you came out in the cool air and you could actually see visibly the evaporation from your body into the cool air.
Yeah.
Like a cloud of moist and warmth.
So that is actually water evaporating from my body.
Exactly.
And it's a energy consuming process.
Exactly. It's not only the warmth leaving the body, it's also very energy consuming.
And you probably also used a lot of energy getting sweaty as well.
Exactly. Maybe not in the sauna, but if you have been working hard, then yes. And I think that's also something very important to remember when you are spending a lot of time outdoors in cold environment, that you have to keep regulating and be clever with both the heat transformation and the energy consumption.
Yeah, because I mean you're also, if you have a wet garment next to skin, it's also conducting away the heat from your body, right?
Exactly. It's
As a wet garment transports heat away from your body much more efficiently than a dry one.
Exactly. Now you are actually talking about a combination of different ways of heat transformation.
Yeah, because they are seldom working as isolated as we're trying to make them here.
Exactly.
When we're
Often
out
a
there,
combination.
like, work together.
Yes. So when we're talking about these combination, I think the fifth element that you should always bring out in nature is the element of knowledge. How you can master all these combinations in order to have an enjoyable time outdoors. So these are actually the basics of heat transportation. But returning to the topic of hypothermia and frostbite, let's start with frostbite. Can you tell me what is it and what can you do to prevent it, and if it happens, what do you do?
Yeah, so frostbites is basically when tissue in your skin is starting to freeze, and you can detect that by spotting small white spots like on your friend's face. Maybe you can see it on your fingers and toes, and it's normally that the body shuts down transportation of warm blood to your extremities, if it's your hands or feet, but it could also be the exposure to convection, the wind in your face maybe, or if you touch a metal with your bare hands, which would be conduction then. And then the tissue closest to the skin is actually freezing.
Is that painful?
It is painful when it's starting to defrost, definitely, and you can feel it because you lose your feeling in that specific part of the body. In the beginning, it's not critical if you treat it. And what you do is to, like, if it's in your face, you just put your hand next to it and warm it up. Don't rub, just keep skin to skin.
And that's interesting because that's also the principles of conduction.
Exactly. If it's your hands, you put them in your armpit, for instance. If it is your feet, it's kind of hard to get your own feet in your own armpit. So maybe use a friend and put your friend's feet in your armpit to heat them up. And that's also conduction. To ignore frostbite can lead to severe consequences, and it quickly gets bad, and you can get, have seen these nasty images of black toes or fingers, and they are, as they don't get any transportation of warm blood and they are deep frozen, the only rescue is to amputate.
So I think we spoke about it before, but keep on practicing all the working your stove with the gloves, using the shovel with your gloves. That's once again something really important to learn.
True.
All right, so that was frostbite. What happens when the tissue of your extremities get cold? But what happens when your core temperature actually drops?
Yeah, the body is constructed to be at 37 degrees, and if we just experience 1 degree of difference up or down, we start to feel discomfort.
Well, yeah, I can relate to that. Having a fever only 1 degree up is making you quite off.
Yeah, and if we climb 5 degrees up or down, we're actually getting into a critical condition. So you want to regulate the temperature at the core of the body and maintain that at 37 degrees. And when we drop below 35, we normally refer to hypothermia or general cooling down of the body, and that's could become critical.
Can you tell me what's the early sign of that?
Yeah, normally what's happening when the core temperature drops is that you start to shiver. And that is actually muscle contractions that the body makes in order to generate heat.
And what do you do when you start to see that sign?
Yeah, if you notice that you are so cold so that you are shivering, that's like your wake-up clock. Okay, let's increase muscular work, do some jumping jacks and so on, add on insulation, drink something warm and sweet, and if it's possible, get inside or get from the exposed environment where you are, so that you can build up the heat again. If you don't do that, you can quickly go into more severe stages of hypothermia, and that's a condition where the body temperature increases to lose temperature or decreases temperature a lot, and it's very tricky to reheat that because you risk to get cold blood from different parts of your body into your into the heart, and that can lead to a heart failure. So paying attention at the beginning is important, and then it's easy to treat and to get out of also.
One thing that I'm immediately thinking of now is the principle of always preparing the next step when you're out in cold environments. You mentioned drink something warm and sweet, and the fact that whenever you stop, always make sure you fill up your thermos with hot water to always be prepared for a situation like that.
Yeah, I totally relate to that, and I think that also concludes the main difference with winter outdoors. It's that first, all the mistakes that you make may have much more severe consequences. There are less margins for errors. So you need, and that means that you need to have a better margin and take less risks and be prepared.
And then you can enjoy it.
Totally. I mean, don't go for the wildest expedition the first time. Level up step by step. But don't hesitate to go out there because it's beautiful. Okay, Sofia, how would you want to conclude all this?
Well, maybe it was quite a technical video, this one, but if I were to give you just one single tip for enjoying the outdoors in winter, that would be to just get to know your equipment in your backyard before you head out.
Yeah, and from there you can expand your circles and take it step by step.
Yes, and really enjoy nature in winter.
Yeah. So thank you guys for watching this, and if you picked up something of interest or if you liked it for whatever reason, you know what to do. You click like and subscribe to our channel, and we sure hope to see you out on the trails soon.